It's less than 200 days before the crucial 2019 general elections, where Nigerians are waiting to elect new leaders across board. So the law that is supposed to be guiding the affairs of INEC for the election is yet to be signed into law. The president has his reason. He said 3 times he's rejected to assent to the law. He has several reasons, and he's sent it back to the National Assembly. So there's been blame games. People are saying the president is at fault. Some others are saying the National Assembly is at fault. But beyond the blame games, what exactly are the issues here? We're breaking it all down for you to make sense of it all. Tonight, Mr. Clement Nwako has been our guest on the program, as well as Alhaji Ahmed Gulak, a former political advisor to former President Goodluck Jonathan, and now a member of the APC. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on the program. Quickly, if you land on that thought you were, on the trajectory you were on, Mr. Nwako, the fact that, as it stands right now, should we find some of these errors, some of the issues that a lot of people have picked in Nigerian laws is the issue of how it does relate to reality and the contemporary issues, and how it does conflict with alternate laws. And so if these issues are being brought out over and over again 3 times on the same bill, isn't there a problem?
Well, there is a problem, and I put the problem right at the foot of government at the executive level. When you come into office, you define your policy direction, you define an agenda, and you know that the legislature exists to give vent to your legislative agenda and bring to fruition the policy ideas that you have. What we have seen, and not just with this government, previously before it, is failure of the executive to use legislation to drive reforms. The legislature, yes, it has the responsibility of lawmaking, oversight, and representation, but lawmaking is premised on 2 planks. 1, the executive initiatives on lawmaking, and 2, the legislative initiative. And when you have the executive running a government, it means that it must at all times deal with laws. When you look at the aggregate of laws that the executive has proposed to this National Assembly, it's been very dismal. And the legislature has gone way beyond its capacity in terms of initiating bills. And that's why, in the same vein as the president refusing assent to the Electoral Act bill, he refused assent to almost 6 or 7 other bills. Most of these bills, indeed all of these bills, are coming from the legislature. So if you have an executive that wants to go in a particular direction, that has a policy direction, that wants to reform, it needs to be the chief architect in initiating bills.
All right.
And that's why you had the PIGB bill, which the president, again, refused assent, because it didn't really come from the executive. The Electoral Act Amendment bill didn't come from the executive. So there's some sort of, I would say, quite bluntly, laziness on the part of the executive in proposing reforms to address reforms that this country needs.
Okay.
And that is why you have some
Let me bring Mr. Gulak into the conversation. Mr. Gulak, you've advised the former president on political issues and a political strategy. There is what they call the deliberate and technical time exhaustion, where you use time and its effect to gain a political mileage. And listen to what the PDP did say. The PDP is saying that the reasons the presidency is giving is just, they're lame, they're not good exercise, and they're asking the National Assembly to override the president on this one. And they're also alleging that the commitment of the president to free and fair poll is just mere lip service. Isn't this a very grave allegation on the president?
Well, I find it unfortunate that every step the government takes or the president takes, the opposition PDP will make a storm out of it. We as politicians, strategically, for the political development of this country, we must be on the same page when national issues are being discussed for the development of this country. We are talking about bills, the electoral bill, the Electoral Act, upon which all elections must hold. Now we are saying that the president refused to assent. He has given his reasons. Do you know that in an act or in a law, a comma or misspelling can change the entire meaning of what is intended to be done. And in this vein, there is nothing to show that the president is tactfully refusing to gain political mileage. No. If the legislature has done its job properly, if they had exhaustively discussed this bill, not having an agenda, political agenda underneath it, then we would have no problem. But as we are today, there is mutual suspicion, and which is not good for the political development of this country. You are at the executive, you suspect the legislature. You are in the legislature, you suspect the executive, as if it is a different government. Separation of powers does not mean separation of government. That you have a legislature and the executive and the judiciary does not mean separation of government. It's just separation of powers. These powers must be, exercised for the betterment of the country, not an individual. Laws are made not for a particular purpose or for a particular individual, but to stand the test of time.
All right, I'll let you go. Quickly, let me ask you this as we bring home the point. And the question will be, for some of the amendment that has been done in this bill, what are your fears? Should the president refuse to assent it in the end, or if this law is not passed, if this bill is not passed? Quickly, because I would like Mr. Nwanko also to react on the same. We're looking at the danger should this bill not sign into law for the 2019 elections.
There is no danger. We had election in 2015. It was conducted on the 2010 Electoral Act. What is wrong with the Electoral Act? The sequence of election was what the legislature tried to change. And there's a judicial pronouncement on that it is squarely constitutionally the function of the INEC to arrange sequence of election. So, to me, as far as I'm concerned, 2010 Electoral Act is good enough for us to conduct 2019 election.
All right.
But if the amendment has been...
Okay, so in 30 seconds, Mr. Nwanko, your fears, some of the instruments that have been provided are proposed in the 2018 amendment to the Electoral Act. Should it not come to pass, what will happen to the 2019 election? Any grave danger? Just in 30 seconds.
Well, quickly, I think the most important thing is the reduction or the increase in terms of the time allowed for INEC to conduct elections or rerun elections in the case of a runoff, which was increased from 7 days in the current law to 21 days, and the procedures for this. But more importantly, I think there was an amendment made and signed into law on March 26th, after 2 days to the president's election of 2015, that people don't even know is now in effect. So really, the card readers and the technology issues that were prescribed for elections can now be regarded as part of the law, and you would not have the judiciary interfere with that process. So I think in that context, most of what is regarded as innovations by INEC have been covered by the powers given to INEC under that law to conduct elections in line with these procedures.
It's a shame that we may not be able to go ahead because of time. Time again, every time is always not a friend. But indeed, we've tried to dissect the issues as much as we can. Mr. Clement Nwanko, it's a pleasure having you. And Alhaji Ahmed, good luck. Many thanks for coming on the program and to share these views with us tonight on the program. Well, that's our show for today, everyone. Many thanks for being part of it. I'm sure Akim Aloe. Bye-bye.